in conversation with the leader of one of the newly launched stock exchanges in South Africa, CEO of A2X, Brady. A pleasure to have you with us as always, and thank you for making time. I actually want us to pick up with A2X itself. It's certainly come on as quite a disruptive force into the market. And how's the reception been so far? Recently launched, quite disruptive, new innovative thinking that you're bringing on board.
Well, thanks for having me on the show. Absolutely. I mean, that's how we positioned ourselves as a disruptor to the incumbent. I mean, it's a long-standing monopoly. South Africa really has, had one sole provider for near on 60 years. So it is a change in mindset. What we did when we looked in terms of looking at the space, we looked internationally. We wanted to see how first entrants against an incumbent were successful, and we pretty much looked at that model to see how we could adapt that to South Africa. So what do? We're literally bringing choice to the market where they haven't had choice. We've using the latest technology, which makes us agile, it's super fast, it's solid architecture. We're offering huge price reductions. We're passing on those efficiencies to the users. And yeah, we want to be responsive and innovative.
How do you do that though? Because many might respond, especially in the retail investor segment, that how do you actually get a second stock exchange? Is it even necessary? And that obviously just paints a picture of how gigantic one of your major competitors actually is, that there's an assumption that they don't need competition.
So, look, I think one of the benefits is technology has advanced so much over the last 10, 20 years. It allows competition to come into the capital market structure. Technology, what it does, it looks at the various markets and it consolidates the order book. So, people are used to seeing one order book, and what technology does is it goes to different markets, but it still creates one order book. So it doesn't really change for the end user, but it brings in competition, which means everyone's got to be more responsive. They've got to be more conscious of their business model. They've got to be more service orientated. So, we see the benefits. As I said, we're bringing in efficiencies. We want to pass them on.
Tell us a little bit more about the innovative thinking that you certainly need to bring on board, because this might have been sparked from an idea and obviously monitoring what your counterparts in more developed economies actually done. But how did you pull a team together that thinks in a similar disruptive manner to actually help execute this project?
So maybe starting with the team, I mean, for us it really was a mixture of finding people with the right skills, but also a culture fit. You need to find people that have that entrepreneurial flair, that have worked in their own businesses or think differently, to kind of challenge the status quo. And that's really what we looked for in terms of a team. And we've been, very fortunate in finding a really good bunch of people that have actually made it possible.
Speaking of A2X and of course the individuals who are leading this team and creating this environment of, more disruptive platforms when it comes to trading stocks, how do we look to make it sustainable? Because when we think disruption and innovation in technology, it almost seems as though the wheel is constantly turning. Exactly. And does it have to?
So again, we're fortunate in the sense that we could look to see what happened internationally, right? We think we can run an exchange on less than 30 people by using the latest technology, by not having legacy systems. But you're right, in time that becomes, a wheel in itself. So you need to be continually looking for the advantages, being agile, being able to move, being able to respond to your client needs. And that's the way we've looked at the business.
How do you ensure that that includes sustainability of some form of the organization and of course the talent and the skills though that you also look to and tap into? Well,
in starting the journey, we always knew it was going to be a long journey, right? To get a license and then to compete against, as I say, a long-standing, well-respected incumbent. So first of all, you need to have the right mix of shareholders. People understand the game, have deep pockets, and understand this is not an overnight game, right? So in terms of, we would anticipate to break even within about 2 years of going live, but understand it's taken us 3 years to get to this stage.
Wow.
So I think it is, one, having the right shareholder mix. It's creating an environment where people can grow in the sense that they can bring new ideas, adapt, be responsive, and to create that environment that people like working in.
Kevin, I want to make this a little bit more personal now. You have a background naturally being a stockbroker and working in this new disruptive space. If you could go back 20 years ago and needed to implement this kind of disruptive thinking, what would you have done differently? And perhaps that's a lesson for younger stockbrokers or entrants into the financial services market to actually adopt now to remain relevant in the future.
Sure, tough question. I'm not sure I would have done anything differently, because I think it really was my experience of getting to this point that let me understand the markets and allowed us to see the opportunity. And it's about seeing the opportunity, but the timing also has to be right. So there were a number of factors playing in our favour. One, the Financial Market Act was introduced in 2012, which pretty much opened the door for competition in the capital market space. Secondly, technology is at a level where you can get it at good prices to make it work. And thirdly, the industry has been frustrated with a sole provider, and so we're supportive of competition coming in. So I think, yes, you need to have the idea, but timing also needs to be right, and I think we're fortunate in the sense that we identified the timing to launch this type of initiative.
That also speaks to the acceptance, right, of not only your stakeholders, but of course the investment community too.
Yes. So absolutely. I mean, you have to get a sense that the industry is going to support you and that they want competition. So we felt that was on the side, right? Let's say technology had advanced to the level that we could get it at a good price, and it would consolidate markets, and we could have a fragmented market. So yeah, it's all those factors coming together, plus people who understand with deep pockets who are happy to support you in your initiative.
Well, you've already disrupted the landscape with your launch. You've gotten your license and officially launched, some trading activity taking place on your platform. What else can we look forward to from A2X in the short to medium term? So
wonderful to have been launched and very exciting times for us, to have the caliber of brokers on board, an RMB Morgan Stanley, Peregrine Securities, an Investec, an Avior, right, and many more in the pipeline. One, speaks to the offering. Secondly, to have secondary listings like, Coronation Fund Managers, Peregrine Holdings, African Rainbow Capital, again, endorses what we're doing. So for us now, it's a move away from implementing and opening to building the business. So it's about getting more brokers on and getting more issuers on, and encouraging them to do so.
You clearly are shaking up the landscape, not only locally, but what about from a continental perspective? Could we ever see partnerships where an entity listed on the Nairobi Stock Exchange or Nigerian Stock Exchange can actually have a secondary listing on A2X too?
So look, what we said was, first step, let's get equities up and running. What is exciting about the capital market space is that I think it really is open for disruption and ongoing disruption in the next 5 years. We said, let's get that up and running, and then let's look at our next best opportunities. Now, we see lots of opportunities. One is absolutely Pan-Africa, but we're very conscious of kind of stick to our plan and then broaden. We're fortunate we've got a platform that is a multi-product, so the opportunities will continue to grow.
Do you believe you're a disruptor?
Look, in terms of, are we disrupting the status quo? Of course we're disrupting the status quo, and we're enjoying it as we go along.